And then I'm probably going to go silent because I have some other things. Bryce, feel
Yeah.
free to stay in or not stay in based upon what you want to do. It's always nice to sort of see maybe you want to hear what the problems are going to be that are going to be worked through. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've actually been seeing some of these on Slack and I'm like, I don't know how to answer them. I should probably watch too.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Is it a hard stop at 2? What's 2 look like?
Yes, it is a hard stop at 2 because I have another Zoom meeting.
Okay, good to know. All right, thanks, David. All right, so Caroline.
Okay, Audrey, have you got any questions?
Oh yeah, Audrey.
No, I'm good. I'm just going to be a fly on the wall.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. This actually might be helpful to people, this kind of problem. So essentially, there, as far as I can tell, there are a few ways to make exit buttons. Like 3 ways. And then they do different things. And so there's this thing. You can do
we can't
code.
see your screen. We can't see your screen.
Share screen. Sorry about that. I do that all the time. Okay, so there are these various exit. First of all, there's like the thing I wanted to do was, I'll tell you what I want to do, and then I can mess around with what I was trying to do. So, and it's probably of various combinations at this point. So, okay, so this is ideally what I want to do. This is not a kick out screen. This is the first screen saying, this is what you're trying to do. Do you want to keep going or do you want to go? This doesn't apply to you. You want to leave. So that's the principle. And if you leave, I want you to go to a Mass Legal Help page that's specific to this screen. So apparently the documentation says you can do an exit from you can set a URL for the question for an exit. You can exit the question with the URL. You can set an exit URL for the interview, and then it defaults to where do you go if you're for the whole server if you exit, right? A screen.
For the whole server?
Yeah, so basically if you put an exit button on any of your interviews, if you haven't defined the URL that it's going to go to, you can have that in your config. So you don't have to, so it just goes like, for us, it'll always just go to Mass Legal Help, right?
I got what you're talking about now. Got it. Okay.
So, so I'm getting stuck because you can have, I'm not quite sure I don't think see if I make this screen be an event, then I get my pretty red exit button and a continue button, but the continue doesn't continue. Right now, if I click either one of these, it goes to continue. So part of it, I'm wondering if it's, I can't find any other examples. I've looked at some of the other interviews we've done, and I don't see anything.
I don't think I've seen a lot of examples.
There's a restart and exit. I don't want to restart.
Right, right. No, the exit screen is the exit screen. So you have to do so. I haven't seen a lot of this type of situation. So I can't think of an example.
I'm trying to figure out, and it doesn't have to be red. I mean, it'd be nice if it's red. If you change this to event as a kickout screen, then it goes red. But what I'd like to do is just be able to say with buttons, not with radio buttons and a continue, just keep going or leave. And it's weird because in theory, you should be able to do that. If you look at these buttons, not the functions, but if you look at,
so I think there might be multiple ways to do this. So I think you were looking at from the code, that documentation that I linked you to. So do we want to
wait a second. I'm not saying I didn't look at anything that you linked me to. What are you talking about?
In Slack, I sent a link, but it looks like you've seen that documentation, but it might be worth looking at again and looking at a bit more closely.
Yeah.
So, so let's use this screen, right?
This code here.
Let's copy this code. Let's just copy this code.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole underneath, don't do mandatory, but let's
No, I'm
copy
not. Do you see
the
my
whole
screen?
code. Right,
you see
so
my-
like,
Do you
the
see my screen,
question-
Michelle?
I do, I'm,
Okay, so I'm not copying mandatory.
right, but I'm saying also the rest of the code.
The
Because,
que-
or
I see what you're
or you
saying.
can go
Gotcha.
to the example, right?
Gotcha.
But I would suggest copying the code and then changing
Yeah,
it
so this is
to-
exactly what well, no, it's not exactly what I want because
Right.
this bit, this is what I've been trying. Yeah, is the URL. That's why I was looking at the command function to go to a URL.
Right.
So this has, okay,
So we're talking about several different things.
Right.
And we might want to break them up.
right. So I'm gonna put
Um,
it in here.
And there are, I think, a few different ways to do this. And one of the questions I have is, do we want to also think about how we find this stuff in the documentation? So
No.
learn a little bit about that. No, we want a solution. Okay. So one way to do this is to so what you had before, it looked like you tried this. There was one thing missing from your code, which I believe, if I see it above, you don't have the field specifier.
Yeah, it's up here.
Where is it? Field welcome. Okay.
So I'll just follow the model here.
Yeah, it'll be a bit easier to see. And what happens when you add the URL? Where does it go?
It just goes when I did it. Well, I haven't done it this way.
Right. I mean from before. Comment out that code for now, because I see some more of the code you've written. So I'd like to understand what is happening right now, because this isn't something I've done before. So it's good to. So, yep. So let's show me the page.
Hang on just a second. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I've got things where they need to be.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that.
You
No.
have a line above there. That's okay.
All right.
So with the
So-
URL, show me what happens.
Pardon?
With the URL there, what happens?
So with the URL, it's weird. Let's see if
Mhm.
this, I don't know what the syntax error is. Shit.
I thought it might have a syntax error.
Well, it didn't before. That was the thing. Code block.
Okay.
Oh,
New
that's
file.
what, that's this. That's this.
Okay.
Hang on. I've tried so many permutations, you know how you do sort of like half
Yeah.
of one and half of another.
Yeah.
So this should just be welcome.
And then the next line can't be, yeah.
Okay. So see, first of all, the button goes to URL.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go next, we go next. And if I do URL, I just go continue.
Okay, so in the documentation, let me look up something real fast. Which I believe
This function command, you see, you can do a command where it goes to a URL.
Perhaps let me find the documentation, because I never. Okay, so we're going to look for action buttons is I think what we're looking for. Action buttons. So I'm going to link you this in Slack as well, if I can find where we are. And here we're looking at how to specify actions that are more that do more
stuff. Yeah.
That do more stuff.
Right.
So have you seen this before, and how have
Yeah.
your experiments gone with it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's try action buttons. Add their name.
there actually was something about this that I will. Okay, so we're gonna do action here. I got you. Okay, so action buttons.
Yeah.
Change. See, I don't know, but all right, we'll try it.
Where are we?
I gotta look at it again because I forgot what it looks like. Okay, it's in the question, right?
So just copy paste, I think.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out where. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's in the
put it.
question. It is under the field is a good place for it. It can't have action buttons and buttons, I believe. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have to, okay.
Don't want to forget what I had before. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome action buttons, more. Okay, so not all right, and then you want to have some code, right?
So first, let's put the labels correct. Kind of one step at a time. We got to line up our labels, which we want next and exit. And exit.
Does that have three? It didn't have three buttons?
No.
So the example does have 3 buttons.
Did I just not copy all of them?
No, but it's only, the code only has 2. I'm assuming that continue gets added.
Maybe
by
continue
default.
happens all by itself.
Let's see. Yeah,
That'd
run
be
it.
cool. Let me take this out
Take out. Okay. Yeah, sure.
and keep the exit. Does it? The field is show quantity. Yeah, there's our continue.
So let's see.
Well, we don't want to change. We don't want the action to be change quantity, do we?
Don't
here,
worry.
this is the-
We'll take care of that. For now, let's see if, right? Like, don't press on any buttons. Let's just see if the continue button appears.
All right, let me just see what we've got. Label action. Well, this, okay. I'm not sure what's going to happen because it's I should make this be.
Don't just
This-
save and run. Just
All
save
right.
and run.
So we don't have the field, and we still have the field here.
Yep, we do.
Okay. Oops. Look at that. Why do you think it has a little? Okay, so that's the change. No.
Well, you have
we
it's the
labeled it,
chevron.
the
Yeah, that's
action is
chevron.
So now
is the-
let's worry about the details, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So first of
Well,
all,
see-
in the
Okay,
documentation,
that works. Right.
in the documentation, if it says if you want it to point to a URL,
Yeah.
you should put the URL in the action specifier.
What do you mean the action specifier?
So we've got action button specifier, then we've got the label specifier.
Wait.
Inside-
Sorry. What do you mean we've got the action? Say what?
Okay. So a specifier, basically it has a colon next to it. This is
You
a
mean the label?
specifier,
So
right?
that's a specifier, right?
So label is a specifier, or
Uh-huh.
that's what we call it in DocAssembly. That's not always called that, but that's what we call it right now. And action is a specifier. So the documentation says when you want it to go to a URL, put the URL in the action.
You just put the URL right next to action?
Yep.
Oh.
Now, I do want you to change something before trying it.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me, instead of change quantity,
Yep.
which is defined in that code,
Yep.
and we
I
can
want
get
you
rid
to
of this
get rid of-
arguments, right?
Yep. Yep. I want you to also get rid of the icon. This is the arrow.
Oh, yeah,
that we're
gotcha.
talking about.
Yeah.
That's the
Uh-huh.
icon.
Does that look
All right.
good?
That's looking good to me.
Wow.
See how it goes.
Okay, next. Goes next. And the moment of truth.
Moment of truth.
Yay! Out of
Freaking
sight. So
awesome.
here's the other thing.
Later, Luke. Oh, he's gone. All right.
He's gone. Oh, he's gone. So it worked, Michelle. That's
It
fantastic.
worked.
That is great. Because that was my final thing was I kept seeing these URL. I figured you could put the URL somewhere, but I couldn't figure out. So it's the action. What do you call this? The action.
So this is an
button. Action.
So this is an action button. So these are the action buttons. So it's a field of buttons. And if you look for URL inside, under this heading, right? If you like get your cursor in the right place and then Command F, you can keep going down and you'll see the URL below here a bit, I think. But I don't scroll. There you go. I don't scroll because it makes me dizzy. Up.
Oh, there.
There
That's
you
what
go.
you're talking about?
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh my God, that's great. All right, so this is include additional buttons on the screen. Oh, that's great because I've got these peppered throughout the interview.
Perfect.
So, because I saw these examples of learn more, and but I couldn't see any they're not kick out screens. You know what I mean?
They're yeah.
Yeah. So my other question is, in a way, this is a kick out screen because you're exiting. So other places you might not want them to be. You might just want to be. So what would you do?
I'm not sure. Wait, Caroline, I just want to be clear. I'm not sure that an exit button usually resets the interview.
Right.
And this, I do not believe this resets the interview.
No, I don't think it does.
Okay, so if you want it to, it's not going to do that.
I don't want it to. I don't want it to.
Perfect.
In fact, what I am wondering about is, this is a URL. Can you make it so it opens in a new window, a new tab? Because I know I thought by default, if you just put a link in a sub question, you with your brackets and then your parentheses, I think those open in a new window by default with DocAssembly. Do you know how to make it open in a new tab? So you don't want to really leave the interview. You just want to go check this other thing to see if you want to keep going. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yep. That I do not see in the documentation. So launch by button to be on. Forget privacy. Only active action. I don't see that in here. We can, there's nothing we can do. URL to open a new tab. So let me just open a new tab or window. URL argument.
I wonder if you could put,
I mean, we could put JavaScript in there and we could do it with JavaScript, but.
What if we did something like this? I don't know if this would work. That's marking up text.
That would be the JavaScript solution, I think, right?
Let me see real fast. This is the markdown solution. So like we would have to write JavaScript that would open a new window or open a new tab and basically do this. But let's see, try that markdown. Take that. I'll
take the whole thing.
Just the markdown. And
oh, I see.
The Mako tag, sorry, to be clear. Let's see, URL of dispatch.
Oh, URL of, yeah, that's right. I remember that's what I was looking at before. URL of, that's got to be your variable though, right?
The thing is, you've got the URL of inside. Where's does the parentheses end?
Right there, dispatch.
Target equals blank. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think this can be marked down. But you could make, I don't think this can. We can try it. I don't think this is
Yeah, I
gonna
don't
work.
think this is Markdown, not Python, right? So, and we're doing,
Some places you can do Markdown. The code inside the Markdown is Python. But the
Oh.
problem is that what this wants is a URL. And from what I know, URLs cannot control whether it opens a new tab or not. I can look that
No.
up, but that's going to be a lot more research.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most URLs are like just by URL specific, you can't control.
But I'm betting that we can ask Jonathan about it. And if he's game, I'm pretty sure he could create a really quick, if
You might
it
be able
doesn't
to-
exist, he could create a really quick specifier for asking for a new tab on a click. So I would say the fastest thing is asking in the DocAssembly channel. Okay. So
can
maybe
this is even, oh, good. I started and never sent. Okay, can we, is there, right? And would I call it an action button specifier?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Specifier that allows us to open URL window. And then
You
I'll
can
just
say
go-
that you can put your code in
Yeah.
for that button. It might be an action button. Would it be an attribute or a key? Oh, geez. I don't know what Jonathan wants to refer to them all as. There it is, though. Okay. If you do 3 ticks before that.
3 ticks.
So, you know, a back tick right below your escape button on a Mac.
I don't have a Mac.
Where's backtick on Windows?
Is that what you
people?
mean?
It's still the very top left
No.
underneath the escape usually.
You know what? Highlight
Oh.
that. Highlight
Like
highlight
that?
that code.
That's what you mean?
Yeah, but you have to do it before you paste everything. That's all. But instead, Caroline, because that's too much pain of a pain. Never mind. That's okay. It just makes it easier to see code, but I can show you how to do it in the UI. If you select that whole bunch of text and then click on the rightmost thing that's a little box with a little code next to it. Yep.
Yeah.
Go
right.
ahead. There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. So,
So maybe we can look at some of Adriana's questions while that's going on.
mhm.
Caroline, would that be
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
I just want to
so-
finish one thing at a time.
Perfect.
Okay. So, Adriana, she's posted in code.
She's in here.
Oh,
I'm
she's
here
here
too.
now. Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
Hi guys, sorry I was off video because again, you don't need to watch me eat lunch.
No worries. So unshare your screen, Caroline.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
So this was an issue that you guys did just help a lot with this morning, but I'm worried I have to undo it and I'm gonna break it again because it's a little bit of a confusing situation. So I'll just outline.
That sounds perfect. Sounds
What I'm
like
looking
exactly
for.
what we want to do.
So we have a voluntary administration of estate form. I think you guys are familiar with it, although maybe you've seen so many recently. They're all blurring together, but this is for somebody who wants to be the personal representative for an estate of someone who has died that's worth $25,000 or less and has no real estate. So they are allowed to have one car that doesn't count out of that $25,000. So they could have a Maserati and still have very few assets and would still count. But if they have 2 cars, that second car counts in the
Towards
25,000
the 25,000. Yeah.
tally. So right now, I think I've got it set up to only collect vehicles with no value. And I need to change that for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th vehicles, if there are any.
Right.
But I just deleted all of the value stuff out of my code, so I just might need to add it back. But
I have a question. Are you doing this do you know how to use GitHub branches so that you can get back your working code easily?
I think I messed that up, and I would love to look at that real quick if that counts as.
Yes, that would be great. So that
Mhm.
when was the last time you hit the commit button to GitHub?
I hit commit this morning.
Okay, so you've got working code in GitHub, right?
Yes, but I think I have a version 2. I think I made a branch at some point, and I'm not
Oh,
sure.
great.
I'm not sure why I was following directions from something, but I'm not sure when or why. And I don't think I think it's working well now. So I would like to, I don't know. What is the branch? I get the point of a branch. You branch off so that you can work on something without messing up the working code. At what point and what's it called when you unbranch? You sort of
Merge.
merge. Okay.
And you
Alright.
make a pull request to it doesn't matter. We'll work that out when we come to it. That's less important than for now, for the moment, keeping it separate so that you have a way to retrieve work if you need to. That's
Okay.
all. So this work we're about to do is new work
Yes.
that may break things, right? So if we don't get to in here, if we get to a point where we want to push, we don't want to retrieve the old code, talk to me so that we can make sure that nothing gets overwritten and stuff like that. We can actually retrieve any of this and I can do that for you. It's just that you don't have the tools on your computer to do that for yourself. That's all. It's just an extra hurdle.
All right.
It's all stored there. So if you committed, it's there. It's just a matter of how do you get at it, right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
I
yeah,
have done it. Yeah, I've done a few things. Well, it's all right. I've done a few things since my last commit, but just minor things like changing the wording and sub questions and things.
as long as you've got what you want to keep in there, that's
Yes.
good. Okay.
Yes. All right. So should I do another branch now?
So right now, no, and you shouldn't do it on GitHub. Once we
Okay.
make some changes, we'll be able to do another branch. Well, I suppose we could right now if you want, but let's look at your problem first. Let's see how far we get there.
Okay. So my problem is I've put this up at the front of my interview order. Handy trick I learned. So I have an asset, add asset screen. So I let the user check off what kind of assets the decedent had. And then I add the details about them and then I review them. So do you want to see what that looks like?
Sure.
Okay. It just it needs the name because it refers to Fred. So we asked, did Fred own any of the following? And I think we maybe talked a little bit about this yesterday during my review, that we could ask how many of the following they own. But here's what I have now is that I just talk about assets in general, and I have a checkbox for cars and vehicles, of which they could have, now that I've checked it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then other assets. So let's just say they have a savings account. So it asks me the detail to describe the first asset. Let's just say it's a bank account and it's worth $2,000. Lets you review that, and you can add another if you want. And then it says describe the vehicle. This is all the form asks for the first vehicle. So let's see, it's Toyota Camry and VIN number. So I want to be able to add another and add the same information, but I'm going to need a value there.
What do you mean a value there?
Oh, value of the, right.
Of the car, of the other vehicle. So the first vehicle, I don't care about the value, but the second vehicle, I do care about the value.
So
actually,
I might think, sorry, go ahead,
sorry,
Bryce.
I was gonna say they're like taking a step back from just being able to add the value field to other vehicles. It might make more sense to either have like a question beforehand that's like, how many vehicles do you have? Is it one or more than one? And if they answer more than one, then you would ask for the value of all of the vehicles. And then because like that essentially like what the like what the user should do is they like ideally they would, if they have multiple vehicles, they like list the vehicle that has the highest value as like the first one, and so that's the value that doesn't get counted, right? And so if you have more than one, it would make sense to just they enter their values and we can handle, like they don't have to worry about, oh, I entered the wrong one first and then going through and deleting that one or something, and just handling and just they enter the values for all of them, and then you would choose, or like the interview itself would find which one's the highest, and that gets listed as the first one.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, is that the way that you're asking the question is also, you know, something to think about.
Okay. The only reason against that, or just playing devil's advocate, is 90% of these cases will probably have only one vehicle.
So if you ask at the beginning, you know, do you
How
have
many?
any vehicles? How many?
Right. Because
Then
if
you
they
screen the
only
people,
have one,
right?
we don't want them to have to go chase or look up in the Blue Book value or
Right,
talk.
right.
I'm gonna restate what Bryce said, because I think some of it got lost in translation.
Yes, please.
If a person, you ask a person, do you have any vehicles? Yes. How many vehicles do you have? One. If one is the answer, you ask them a question that goes, what is your vehicle? With no value question. There's no value question there. Otherwise, you ask them for a list of vehicles and ask them for a value in those questions, and then give them as much leeway as you can, taking off the vehicle that costs the most, right?
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
So sorry, Bryce, just misstating, but yeah,
please correct anything.
restating, not misstating. I hope I'm not misstating.
Just confusing people deliberately.
Yeah, and that's the exact approach I suggest going for, because asking the person later which one they want and then getting prices, and it becomes a whole.
Okay.
I'm a big supporter. It's so many of these things. It's asking people how many. I love is ask people how many they have of whatever it is. Most of the time. Now, sometimes it's easier to do. Is there another? Is there another? Is there another? But I think when you know how many things people like, you know how many children you have, you know how many cars you have, you know, you may not know how many savings accounts you have. Those are the kinds of things I think that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So shall we try and, do you feel like you have something to go on now that you want to try, or do you want to try some of that code?
I can try it. I'm at the point where I'm getting into finals, and so
Okay.
some of these may be future enhancements.
That is totally 100%
Do
okay.
you think this seems like, could you do this in under an hour, do you think? Or with this?
I've had a lot more experience with both with coding and with DocAssembly.
So
I
that's
believe
about-
I could do this in under an hour.
Okay.
I don't
it's
know
not
if
a
you
big-
can do this in under an hour.
Okay. If it was 2 hours or 3 hours, it's kind of a good break from criminal procedure. But if it's
Yeah.
more than that, it's going to start to make me wish I could always try it and then just have my branch be.
I would suggest trying it for 20 minutes. If not, and you want to keep working on it, ping in the channel, and like maybe you and I can have a video call. And I mean, we can try some of it now if you want, but if you want to try it on your own, that's totally okay. Or if you want to say, I'll give it an hour and then I'll just leave it as an issue, that is also okay. Though I would recommend that you write down this discussion and our conclusions in here in the issue, so that in the future people know what conclusions we came to during this discussion.
You know what? And we're recording this too, right?
Yeah, we are.
So when we get it posted, do a timestamp
I
too.
could even link to to this.
Yeah, that's perfect.
In the issue. I would think I would like to try it on my own. If you
Sure.
guys have one more second, I think there's a quick win that would make a big difference, and that we talked about it yesterday, where you're describing, you have your list of types of assets. And here it says, it spells out savings account, and here they're all lowercase and not spelled out.
Okay.
I looked and I couldn't, so this couldn't figure out how to change that because it's a function, and I'm not very adept at like jumping between different modules.
Sure. So the problem here is that you've got an object and you've got the, do you know what an object is? Or maybe a dictionary, it might be a dictionary. So you've got the keys and the values on the wrong sides. You should have the keys where the values are and the values where the keys are.
That easy. Okay, so where is this question? What's it called?
God, don't you love those IDs? It makes so easy to find the question.
Yeah.
I think they're great.
Yes, I've been sticking to that. All right, so here it is. It says right here, variable is, oh no, that's the show if.
Mm-hmm.
So assets, type list. So it's calling a function.
So that's going to be in your module.
Okay.
Very likely. It might be in here. You can look for def assets underscore type underscore list and see if it's defined in here. I suspect it's not.
No. I
Yeah,
don't-
probably not, because it might be from the, this is a module from,
Oh, this is a module from MAVC.
yeah,
This is
or,
the financial stuff.
yeah.
Oh, so that isn't, if that is the case, then you are not going to be able to fix that yourself.
Oh,
That's
Well,
something we will have
yeah.
to fix.
okay.
Unless she copies it and puts it in her own modules in the package.
I do believe it is something in MA virtual court, because I remember Quentin yesterday during the review stating that
Yeah,
this was
yeah,
him and that he had
yeah.
to fix it.
Okay, so I think that's something we have to fix, but
Okay. Should I put it as
um,
an issue and tag Quentin?
yeah, put it in as an issue on MAVC, maybe.
Okay, how do I do that?
MA virtual courts, you'd go to the repository of MA virtual courts. So that's github.com/suffolk.lit/lab/docassemble-MA virtual courts or MA virtual court or something like that.
I think it's MAVC at this point.
No, it's
No?
still MA virtual courts.
Was it?
If you go to, nope,
Oh,
if
there-
you go,
and
there we
it is.
go, right
MA
there, right
virtual
underneath it.
court, DocAssemble MA virtual court, right there at the bottom.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, I can create an issue here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Nice.
You can create an issue anywhere on GitHub, I think. Well, I think some places have disabled it, but that's the default set.
Okay, it's great. I'll do that then.
Issue, perfect.
Yeah, great.
So, given that, who is left with questions about what? Can we cover other questions?
I just want to say I was able to join. So if there's anything, an issue, if it was directed towards me, I might be able to answer it now. New question.
That's great, but we're just putting an issue on MAVC about the financial, the list of assets. To switch the keys and the values so that the uppercase, so that the right label appears on the question, on the field.
Okay, so it's actually not part of that repository.
It's not?
No.
Okay, where is it?
Cancel.
The financial statement.
It's in the GBLS is the owner of it, and it's DocAssemble income.
Okay.
I don't see a cancel button, but
Got it.
Just go, yeah.
okay. And what, say a switch the keys.
All right. So it sounds like the questions that are here today are ones we've addressed.
Yes, I have a bunch more, but they're all things I think I can work on, and I will reach out.
Ask us a question. It's Teaching Tuesday. This teaches everybody, not just you.
Oh, you're here. I know. When you guys do testing, do you usually have any formal process for that, or do you just ask people, take a look at this form and let me know what you think, or is there any formalized process for testing?
The answer is there is a formalized process, but you don't need to be as formal for your assignment. That's all.
Okay.
But Michelle can answer the question in proper way.
Okay, well, good to know. Good to know that it's a different situation. So one, there is a kind of, can some people kick the tires, as Quentin has shown. There's also a formalized human-powered by hand format for writing scenarios and specifying what inputs, so people can go down a checklist and say, this did happen, this did happen, this did happen, this didn't happen, either correctly or incorrectly, right? To say that it had the expected behavior or not. I'm also working on a way to integrate automated testing into GitHub. So that is something that whoever is interested in testing, that has developed quite a bit. And you can actually write scripts that look a fair amount like English and will test your code for you whenever you hit the commit button. So then you will get either a passing or a failing test. And hopefully with some recent updates, there will be less race conditions. So it should fail. Race conditions in this situation will mean that sometimes tests will fail when they are not supposed to fail and you have to rerun the tests. So hopefully soon there will be less of that.
And I just wanted to link in something kind of in between the really formal tests, which actually, Michelle, you didn't go into details of what those are, but one strategy that I think is really helpful is to come up with scenarios. So I just linked a document in the chat, which talks about writing scenarios and sharing them with other people to do testing. I think one of the first steps is to kind of create something like a feature matrix and decide which things interact with each other and which things are really independent. And then try to get a couple different people to test and give different input that seems like realistic within the constraints of, I want to make sure this feature and this feature and this feature is tested in these 2 or 3 combinations. So you should be able to end up with 5 to 10 tests for most forms, depending on how complex they are, that give you really pretty good safety and feeling that you've checked all the boxes.
Yeah, if you want to discuss testing and how to kind of determine what things are intertangled, and so what can be tested and kind of what combinations, how you can build your scenarios to kind of effectively test multiple things and to effectively test the complexities that you're facing. So to identify where those complexities lie, that's a whole other super fun discussion. So, and I mean, I think I might have read an earlier version of the document Quentin linked. I think it's a good start.
Okay. Cool. I'll check.
But if we want to discuss, I mean, we have 15 minutes or so. If you want to bring up another question that you have, or we'll see if we can tackle it, or if you want to discuss testing more, we can do that too.
One is another item that I have. I was trying to listen to Caroline's discussion earlier about the exit screens, but I have a couple of cases where I need to exit. I'm not quite sure how to do that, or at least flag to the user, that they've gone over they've entered more assets than they're supposed to with this $25,000 limit. So kind of theoretically, what's the best approach to that? Do I want to, when they're adding the asset, do I want to flag a warning? And so say they've added, $24,000 worth of assets and they're going to go put one last bank account and it puts them over the limit. Do I want to stop them from adding that asset and say, if you add this asset, you no longer qualify for this.
So the easiest coding way to do it is to wait till they've entered all the stuff and hit enter. And if the amount is over the limit, then shunt them over to a page that says, sorry, it's over the limit, you don't qualify. A more user-friendly way, which is a bit harder in DocAssembly, is to create some validation code that can, but this is very complicated to try to do in DocAssembly, that will immediately react to an input based on the values of all the inputs on the screen, or values that exist outside of the question, which is, I think, what you're describing. You're describing doing some math to see if they've put in too many, if their assets are too great.
Yeah.
And that involves doing some code to add up the values on the screen, and possibly to add up values that are off the screen, which in DocAssembly is very hard to mix. Theoretically, you could display some red text
Before we
that
get
says,
too far down that road, though, Adrian, is that what you're asking, or are you asking about, like, should you stop the person from adding assets?
Yeah, should you, what do you guys think is the right approach there? Yeah, if it's I'm not going to write that if it's very complicated and difficult, but I think that would be the best user experience, is to not get through, your whole list of things and then get, oops, sorry, too bad.
I think you could put it in issues.
Okay.
And I don't think it's something, unless Quentin knows something that has changed recently, I don't think it's something to approach this semester.
No, but I think it deserves like a minute to think about it from like a practical point of view. Like, is it something where you should stop someone from submitting it if presumably they already have to say, I have under $25,000 in assets, right? And then you've done the math for them and you think, okay, well, you got it wrong.
And if it's close,
I don't know if
maybe
you
they
could
just
stop them or
want
not.
to
I'm
leave
not
one of
100% sure.
Is this something that they've done wrong, or is it just that they have too many assets to qualify?
Well, their math may be wrong. So they
Yeah.
may have added it up and gotten, 24,700, and they put in the values. And in fact, it's 25,123 or something like that, and that happens a lot. People get the math wrong, right?
So the question is, like, do you let them submit it and let the court decide?
I
They
see what
qualify,
you're
or do
saying.
you stop them from even filing it? And
Or do you
I
give
see
them
what
a
you're
chance
saying.
to
there might be some folks.
remedy it? Maybe they just leave
Yeah,
off
like,
one
is
of
it
the.
if it was very specifically, or like is actually over the required amount, what happens? Like, what, like, is it a different form, and how different is that form from like the current form you're working on?
And does the court make exceptions? And
Yeah.
And could they have got it wrong in a different way? It's maybe they named an asset on the form that they really didn't need to declare, that the judge would say, you're actually fine, even though you thought you weren't.
yeah, as far as legally, I don't know. I mean, if you know for sure that if that is for sure a kick out condition, then that's a different question. But yeah, legal people, take it away. I don't
So
know.
I mean, you've got this legal issue, but I'm also, I mean, that's the bigger question, right? But the other thing is, I think, we did some code where we were adding characters in from one field to the next,
Mhm.
and we just no matter how many. So it seems to me you can do that, but I think you have to decide. So basically, if their assets are $75,000, I think you need to make this legal call. Maybe talk to are you the person who had a outside estate lawyer person? I think they would probably be the best person to ask about what you want the behavior, at what point. I mean, clearly, if the limit is $25,000 and they enter $400,000, you want to exit that, right? But where's the margin?
Well, I mean, there's also, are there countries in which there's not a 0.00 if they're entering it on an American from an American IP and in English language, and they just don't enter numbers, like, is there one where like the 2 0s are assumed to be decimal places? I don't know. I've seen some really funky currency values around. So,
But I think that's another issue. I think
well, I'm just saying that they might be entering like, 100, like they might be multiplying everything by 100 when they shouldn't be, which would cause them to seem to have way too much money when they don't actually.
You're saying that even if we made the limit 100, factor of 100, then it might not be right.
Yes.
My sense is like, we want to protect people from making mistakes and make sure they understand the consequences of what they're doing. But we also don't want to prevent them from doing things they could have done on paper in a way that's frustrating. So I would say, like, give them the warning up front, make them say that they have under the threshold assets. Then if they enter too many, warn them, hey, this looks like too many. Are you sure? Do you want to double check? And then
you can
but that I think you can do on the next
Can you
page.
not do a review screen with all the assets that they've added and the values they've put in, so they can just like maybe somebody put in, I mean, forget about the whole country, other decimal writing things. Sometimes you put in an extra 0 or you don't put in an extra 0 just when you're typing. So maybe that your review screen, could your review screen come up with a total, and then they can go in and edit that way?
I would suggest having on the next page at least. First of all, yes, I believe it can, Caroline, and I think that's a great idea. And I would also suggest having on the screen after whatever asset was put in, whatever screen took them over the limit, putting a screen that says, just so you know, this is over the limit. Do you want to continue? And if they want to continue, they can. And then they can edit those assets, like to continue or edit those assets or whatever. And if they, and offer them just like Caroline described.
Are you doing list collect, Adriana, for your assets?
It's not just a plain list collect. It's
I know you got your vehicle in the beginning, but I mean, for like the seat, like I saw you had your check boxes, and then you've got a list collect for each of those assets. Is that how that works, or?
Quentin might know.
This is the financial statement we built for the Social Security form, Caroline, that's based on. So it's one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you first say what assets you have, and then you get asked for them from the check boxes, and then you get asked about them one at a time, and then you have the chance to review them, edit, delete, or add additional.
Then you could, if you're doing it that way, then you definitely could give them this is where, like, a running total, right?
Yeah, you totally
at the bottom of the screen. That was going to be my suggestion. I haven't found a way to do it on a regular question screen that's that easy, but is there a way to do it on a review screen that's more?
What do you mean?
Achievable?
Well, tell me what you're not sure how to do.
Like put a live calculation of the current like values on the screen in some JavaScript code in a note, I assume.
Okay, but I think what Caroline is saying is just show the balance total from all the previous questions, which is, I think, that in itself would have a lot of value, right?
You could put it in a sub question or something, right?
Yeah. So you would just show the total.
But you couldn't change it live as they edited the values.
Yeah.
Oh, on that screen?
Different point. You're right, but.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were describing. Okay.
There is a way to refresh information on the screen without having a review screen. And I don't know that it is necessary to do, but what I might say is, like, just on this assets review here, the screen that you have visible right now, just showing the total underneath. Yeah. And then more, like, maybe have it in red or something, or flashing if they, not flashing literally. Hey, this is too much. Are you sure this is right?
Back to
so 90s. Quentin, you're saying the total including what they've entered here, including the 3,000.
So this screen would come up after, if we go back one more time. It only showed right away where it did because Adriana only checked off savings.
Right.
So if someone had doubles of any of those, they would keep editing on that review screen. But otherwise, they would not get that review screen until they've finished and entering all of the assets of each class that they have.
Oh, I see.
If the
So it would be running
calculation,
total, is my point.
if the calculation is a running total of your previous stuff and not what you're currently entering on screen, I would suggest putting it at the top as opposed to the bottom.
Yeah, definitely. Because right, I think if it's at the bottom, then you think it's including what's on the. You would think it would be including the 2,000.
Wouldn't it? Why couldn't it? It should.
I think that's Quentin. That's what you were saying, is that if you put it at the bottom, you can include what you've entered. That's what I was asking about.
I think we're all talking about different things. So I think
Okay.
that Michelle's talking about having it on this screen here where you enter information to only show a running total if it includes the total on the screen.
Oh, I thought you.
I see what you mean by not a regular list collect. I did not understand that that's what that button was doing. That makes more sense to me now.
I think it's needed on this screen, but that I don't think it's needed on the previous screen as you're entering
Yeah.
the description.
You
Yeah,
don't know which one they made a mistake on, right? Or if they did, or if there's an asset that maybe they're going to look at again and say, hey, well, maybe I didn't have to declare that one. I'm not sure.
Working
But
round
obviously on a paper form, they could enter
This is the
$300,000 in assets and they wouldn't
current
get told
balance
it's
in the
wrong until they
city.
got to court,
true.
which may not be good experience. I'm not sure, but maybe if the judge would have better insight into what's okay and what's not, so to be careful about. When we fail, I'd rather fail in a way that
the judge can make the decision rather than we make the decision.
especially if we do it wrong for some reason that we don't anticipate.
Especially if we do it wrong.
Yeah.
That's good guidance. That makes a lot of sense.
So I see that David said we had to stop it right
Yep,
at.
hard stop it too.
So on this screen, Adriana, if you wanted to just edit this screen, all it does is it shows the table and the add another button, which is just code, but you could add extra text on that screen too. And it would just be assets.total open and close parentheses.
Okay, assets. Dot total.
Or maybe it's balance total, whatever is the same code you have in the attachment block is what you would want to put here.
Okay.
Match the
Can
same.
you put it below the list collect, or does it have to be above?
Well, it's not a list collect. That's the thing.
Well, I
it
mean, the
works for being
table.
below
Sorry, the
here because
table.
it's a summary here of all of them. I think below works okay. Because she's
That
not
is
entering
the
any
normal
more
place to
values
put
on
it.
this page.
Total for a table. Yeah.
So you can put it below.
Yeah.
I think so.
So is this table in a sub question?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, I see.
So I just have to put this
Yeah. In Mako tags, like somewhere after assets.add action, that's what shows the add another button. And you just show the total. And I would say, like, if you want the whole code for how I would do it, I would probably put it inside currency.
Here it comes.
All right, I think we got to go. It is now 1:59. Sorry, folks.
Maybe in bold as well. Something like that.
Okay.
Don't close it till Adriana can.
You're better.
Oops, I'm missing. Speaking of closing, I missed a closing parenthesis. I just noticed. So I don't want you to get a bug.
It's gonna be a hard stop here soon. So
Okay.
cut and
I've copied
paste.
it.
All right.
We can probably put it in the Slack. That's
can put it in the Slack.
probably
I got it.
doable.
It's good. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much.